So it is graduation season. So for anybody who is listening and has a child who is graduating and you are feeling that tension of empty nest coming, a lot of you are realizing in this season that at some point your kids, they stop needing you the same way that they always have. But nobody tells you how painful that actually feels. And so I know I have been in a lot of conversations recently listening to women crying and talking about this because it's not just about an empty house, right? It's about waking up one day and then realizing you don't actually know who you are on the outside of being needed. And that is a completely different situation. Hi, I'm Michelle Rose, and I work with Christian midlife women who feel like they may have slowly disappeared in the middle of doing everything right and then want to feel beautiful and important again in this season of their life. So today we're going to be going there. Why you might be feeling invisible, why this season feels so unsettling, and how to rebuild your identity in a way that actually feels beautiful again. Because if you don't understand the shift that is about to take place, I mean, I know you can feel it, but if you don't understand it, you'll try to fill that space with other things that keep you busy, burned out, and overwhelmed. And will never actually bring life back to you when you keep filling the void in the space with busy, right? Because there's something about this time of year, Mother's Day, graduation season, that brings everything to the surface, where you may be scrolling past photos of your child and you're proud, of course you are, but there's something else that's sitting there underneath the surface too. And it may feel like grief. It may not feel as heavy as grief, but while everyone else is celebrating what's next for them, and you're happy for your child and what's for next for them, but there's this questioning, like, what's next for me? I'm really curious. Is that question something you've asked yourself recently? Even if you don't have a child in graduation or anything like that, you can put it in the chat. And here's the truth. It's not about having more time because, that's something we're kind of excited about, right? But, and that's what people kind of remind us when they talk about this empty nest season is you're going to have so much more time now, like as if that's the reward. And it can be, but no one really talks about what it feels like when that role that has structured your entire adult life starts to fade and move into the shadows. And there was always somewhere to be, someone to help, something that needed your attention. And you were the one keeping everything together, right? Moving the schedules, the meals, the conversations, the emotions that they were carrying and handing over to you, all of it. And then now it's quieter, not necessarily empty, because of course you have friends and you have activities and things, but it's different. It's in a way that is hard to explain to someone who's never experienced it before. But your kids, they're growing up and you're excited about that because you can see the potential of who they're becoming and you got to have a part of it. But it's this version of you now that's been built around being needed that doesn't really know where to stand anymore. Right? You don't know where your place is. And this is what happens when you've spent years pouring out into everyone else, but never really pouring back in or never really asking yourself, like, who am I when I'm not needed or when the distractions are gone? And now I was in a Bible study this past weekend where that was one of the questions we were journaling and asking ourselves about, like, who am I when the distractions are gone, when it's quiet? And that's a hard question to answer because if you really sit with that question for a minute, you start to kind of realize something that feels uncomfortable. It's not familiar, right? You can give your whole life over to people and still feel like you don't know who you are. And that's a strange thing to sort of admit because you're with yourself all of the time. But you were the center of everything during the majority of your adult life. And you're probably really good at knowing what they need before they even need it. They don't even have to ask you anymore because you already know. When you're so good at that and your life is so built around this place of being needed, people don't always stop to ask you who you are underneath all of that, what you want or what you need. And you know that they love you. That's not what we're talking about here, but you got really good at being everything for everyone else. And you didn't even stop in any of that season to ask yourself that question. What do I need to live a beautiful life? What do I think about those things? Or What do I want my life to look like in this next season after graduation, right? And so things are quieter, there's less distractions, those questions in that quiet start getting louder. They've always kind of been there, but now they're a lot louder. And there's this space where you truly do now have time to slow down and pay attention to them. If you are willing to slow down, there's some really beautiful things that you can find there. And it's like meeting yourself again as if you were meeting a stranger for the first time. You don't quite know what to say or do, but you can look at the person and the smile on their face or something, and you can kind of go, I know I would really like her. And when we're in that place of where we don't know what to say or do, we might even ask ourselves things like, should I get a job or volunteer somewhere or go back to school? And we might even start Googling things that may make us excited, or could fill out half an application for that job before we close the computer and shut it down, right? Because it feels silly. But if you really do ask yourself what you need, you don't really need to fill your time, do you? You know, the truth of it is you're tired. Deep down in your bones, you are tired. And so really we need to ask ourselves that deeper question. Where do I fit now? And for so long, your place, it was clear. There was always something with your name on it, the honey-do list. But now you actually get a choice of what that list looks like. We can make decisions aligned with our calling that the Lord has for us. But it can be hard without that clarity from the Lord, right? And so this is really important for us whenever we're choosing what's next. It's going to shape an entire season for you, and it's the foundation. So it isn't hard to fill your day with new things. Anybody can do that. What's hard is building what's meaningful to you, how you get to make your impact with all of the time and experience you've developed over the years, the things that make you cry, the things that make you giggle and get giddy because you can see the Lord moving there, right? You get to rebuild it and get honest about who you are now, and letting it all shape what's next. And so that can feel like a lot of pressure, I know. So if you need support and don't want to figure this out on your own, just know that there is a worksheet in the Facebook group for you to go and download and walk yourself through, because this being known in this season really is important, and the Lord is the foundation of that. He's never been confused about who you are, has he? He's the one who designed you. He has the manual on who you are, right? He's not waiting for you to become anything new so that you can fill your calling. You don't have to prove anything. He's been there the whole time, and he already has a purpose and a plan for you, and he's so excited. And so instead of rushing into that season, I want you to give your heart over to him in a place where there's surrender and peace, so that you can start, right, working through those things with him. Because I've walked through this, right? I know what it's like to feel like something's missing. And I want this next season to feel fulfilling and rewarding. You know, you've sown a lot of seeds. And so this is the season where you get to reap. And the truth of it is, you don't have to have a plan. He has the plan. When I think about my life, one of my main themes for my life is it's not my job to produce the miracle. It's my job to show up with the 5 loaves and 2 fish the way the Lord has asked me to. And he will do the wonderful thing, right? And so that's what I want you to just start paying attention to, what's really yours. The miracle's not your job. You get to just show up and sit at his feet with 5 loaves and 2 fish, right? And get to know yourself again. And so this might seem completely unrelated for me to even mention this at this point. But I've seen it happen so many times that when a woman is in this season where she's coming back to herself, one of the fastest ways to get connected with yourself is through physical activity, getting your body moving again. Start paying attention to yourself in the mirror and just with kindness. And so your face and your posture and how you carry yourself just really matters in how quickly you come and connect with yourself again. So I am hosting a face exercise workshop on May 30th, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And I want to invite you to come. It's not about your face, right? It's about learning how to show up again for yourself in a very fun and caring way. So if you've been feeling any amount of disconnection with yourself, come join us. You're going to love it. And we're all going to have fun together. But I do want to be honest with you here because I told you last week I was going to get a little vulnerable this week. And so you're probably thinking, yeah, I haven't heard anything yet. And so I thought that in my season when I was going through empty nest, I was not prepared for what it was going to look like. I didn't expect how much it would really affect me. And because I had a job, I had things that kept me busy outside of being needed for my family. But the house felt different. And I never heard anyone mention this, so I'm going to mention it now. The house echoes. Their stuff is gone. And so the walls, when it echoes. And that's not something that I was prepared for. And then you're thinking, naturally, of course, I'm going to have less laundry and a house to clean, and it feels slightly exciting. But after a while, you realize you don't have enough to keep you busy when you're at home. And so the silence feels even louder. And so I found myself reading a lot of books. And by the time I set them down, the emptiness was still there. And so I was trying to outchase the empty and the quiet, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so we had two brothers come and live at our house for a while. That helped with the echo, but it didn't help me with the part that needed to be needed because they handled everything on their own. They were adult men. Right. And so they did their own laundry. They cleaned up after their own dishes. They did their own cooking. And so nothing really changed except for the echo. And around that same time, my health, I know a lot of you guys who follow me, you've heard my health journey, but for those who haven't, I had 13 years of autoimmune disorder where I was in bed 16 to 20 hours a day. And at this point in time, my health was actually getting better. So because I wasn't stuck in bed, I had more time to sit there in the silence and twiddle my thumbs. And I'm a hard worker, so I wasn't really twiddling my thumbs. But my point I'm trying to make is the silence was loud. I started to notice a lot of things I had been avoiding for a long time. And here's the part where I get vulnerable because I had to come with the realization that I had let a distance between me and God happen, a distance between me and myself happen, and a distance between me and my marriage happen. And that's really hard to admit, right? I was so busy taking care of everyone else. It was easy in my mind to just go, okay, I'll do my quiet time later in the day, and then later never comes. So in this empty nest season, I didn't even know how to sit with God anymore or with myself or my husband anymore. We tried scheduling date nights and we didn't know how to even communicate. So it was like, okay, well, let's treat it like it's an office meeting. Let's pull out our calendars and talk about the week. Everything was unfamiliar. And it saddens me to know that I let it get that far, right? I was just numb and going through all the emotions. But I had to decide, like, I came to a place of making a choice. Am I going to keep distracting myself? Like, am I going to continue to keep trying to prove myself and people please? Or was I going to finally face all these things I avoided, do the work? And I didn't have a plan, but I let the Lord meet me in the quiet and everything changed. And I think that's what I want you to take away from this today, right? If this season feels quiet, if it feels unfamiliar, or if that's the fear you have where you don't quite know where you fit anymore, because now you don't have to show up at Girl Scouts and all the activities for your kids. So what will you do now? Where will you fit? It doesn't mean that you're forgotten or that you're invisible. And so I love that in Psalms 139, it says, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me." That He knows you, fully knows you. He sees you in this season. He has seen you in every season. And I didn't understand it back then. I thought that the quiet meant I had lost something. So I grieved it like something was wrong. But I get to look back now and I can see that God wasn't taking anything away from me. He was bringing me back to a place where I got to be back with Him, back to myself, back to a time with my spouse. He didn't waste any of that season. That season and the silence and all those questions, it's what actually fuels everything I do now because I did the work. And so it's why I care so deeply about you and the other women that I get to work with, because I know what it feels like to slowly disappear in my own life not even realize that I had been disappearing until it all got quiet. And I also know what it feels like to come back from that. So if you're in a place here right now, don't try to run past this. If you need someone to sit in that place with you, I'm here. Like, you don't need to have any answers today because God, He's not absent in this season and He knows all the answers. He sees you and He's in love with you. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to find a moment today to crawl up in Papa God's lap. Put on some worship music if you need to, but let Him just hold you in that silence, in that ache and pain while you share your grief with Him. And here's the cool part. He's not worried about your grief or your pain or your fears. In fact, He knows how to heal it. So you don't have to crawl up in His lap and tell Him what you need Him to do. So if you feel like your prayers have to be these big, elaborate prayers, they don't, because He already knows. And so all you got to do is crawl up into His lap and go, Papa God, I'm really sad in this season. And I need you to meet me here because I don't know how to get myself out of it. I don't know how to fit in anymore. Right. And so I hope that today is been encouraging for you. This is the deep core part of my heart and message of what I want to do here at Making Life Beautiful Again. And so I hope that you can see that, sense that. If you need one-on-one coaching, reach out, Michelle at michelledayrose.com. I'm happy to meet with you. And so next week, it's going to be more practical. So if you've got the tired mom face going on, I'm going to show you how we can work a 5-minute session to get that tired mom face to go away. And so I hope that you'll join us. I'll see you there.